Welcome to the buy list. This is a top 8 Nationals deck tech with the man himself, Nathan Lap Ham.
Welcome. I won't throw anything at the camera. It doesn't feel fitting. This is one of our few deck techs on the channel. So we're just kind of gonna go run through the Nationals deck, some of the card choices we made in it, the run, just the core philosophy in the deck and where it can go from here. I don't think this is even like remotely close to the correct 80. And if I had to run back the tournament again today, I would not submit this 80. So um obviously Enigma, great hero. As soon as I started playing her, I just almost like became attached. Which is weird as many of the regular listeners will know I have basically routinely dogged on illusionists since the creation of the class. Um, in that,
Yep.
I guess I am just one of the delusionist now. I don't know what else to say. She's super fun. It's
I don't know. I'm not one. I'm not one with the illusionist.
yes, I am now one of the delusionists. Do I get a stamp? How do I join club? Thank you.
No, you're just
Um,
forever known as Lap Ham now.
yeah. First though, I want to shout out my teammates. Ryan, both Michaels, Hamilton and Fung, Travis and Andrew, contributed so much to the deck. I've as soon as basically we were able to start creating decks, I started creating decks and I was like, guys, this deck is broken. You play this big dragon thing and then you kill them. And they're like, yeah, that's cool, buddy. And then I was like, but guys, like, look, and like my deck was so bad. It was like I had haze shelters, I had Oasis Respite. I was playing like all of the ward cards, so much of the defense reactions. And then Hamilton one day was like, this is really cool. What if we just put attacks in it? And I was like, oh, dude, that's so smart. That's way better than my garbage deck. So we put attacks in the deck.
Yeah.
Um, and like the deck is it's basically a combo deck. I like your main combo target, Miragai, or Miragi, manifestations of Miragi, big dragon,
Hmm.
very good card, busted. So basically the way that the deck is built is to kind of like play like semi defensively until you can make the dragon, and then typically you want to make dragon, swing for large number, and then end on a disruptive piece. So like in the certain matchups it'll be CNC, weakest link, phantasm clasm,
Mhm.
dissolve reality, warmongers. All of those are like acceptable things to like end on. Amnesia. um and because of how Enigma works, like she has to deal damage to you to clear the ward. So when you attack your opponent with Miragi, you basically tell your opponent you don't get the block. This is unblockable damage. I'm dealing damage directly to
Hmm.
your face because as soon as you
Mhm.
block with a card, you cannot present the most amount of numbers back at me. And as soon as someone blocks with a card, that's them showing weakness in their hand and can change how you continue to attack them.
Hmm.
Um, So, like, even if like maybe it's not quite as good of a turn and you're like Tunic Miragi swinging and you have E Strike in your hand, you potentially go draw a card instead of like +2. Um, because if they block with a card there, you know that their hand's not as strong and you might have a chance to protect the Miragi. Or I don't even. This is I'm
It's
the
mere
terrible
guy.
illusion. I don't even know what the heck
It
this.
is.
I'm
It
just gonna call
is.
it Big Dragon. I'm a dumb
Oh my
jabroni. All
god.
right, just make
You're
Big Dragon
already
big numbers, okay?
just
Um,
fighting the Dromai stands until the very day, and now you're just mispronouncing their favorite dragon. Oh my god, Lapham. You
dude, I
can't be
don't
doing
listen.
this.
That my non-illusionist colors are showing. So like the main equipment suite, obviously Tunic, Pathways, Traverse, Broken card, Uphold Tradition, great card. Uphold Tradition is the only arm piece I ran in the list this weekend. I think I would want to make space for the Gauntlet, but Uphold Tradition is an action point
Do
in
you
the
mean
arm.
Stonewall Gauntlet?
Yes, Stonewall Gauntlet. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Potentially
Why
Goliath Gauntlet, to be completely honest.
Yeah. So,
Um,
why would you run, Stonewall Gauntlet if you ran it back?
so Stonewall Gauntlet, obviously, it's good in the Zen,
Mhm,
but I think it's also very good into Azalea and Riptide. Um, that's really it. It just gives you like small points of equity there, whereas like Uphold Tradition does not get as much value into specifically Azalea because sometimes it just gets Murkmired and then you're like really sad. So
mm,
I think that you can get more value potentially in those matchups, but I think Uphold is just kind of insane because of Alice's philosophy of like your boots are your action point slot, and it's like oddly enough in Enigma, your arms are your action point slot. Um, because there's a lot of times where I will just uphold tradition Rage Spectre to gain an action point, and
mm.
then it's like a baby it's a baby
Mirror
dragon.
guy.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try and say it anymore. I'm too tired.
I just remember, like, what's the weirdest way to pronounce it? And it's mirror guy. That's how I remember.
Yes, mirror guy. There we go. Sure. I don't even know how to pronounce the stupid dragon's name. Um, so like obvious staples in the deck at this point are like CNC, Fate Sync, Hold the Line. Hold the Line, I'm at 3 of. It's one of the best transcend enablers and is very meta relevant.
Mhm,
Um, so it's just a really good card. And then you can see that in a lot of the blue slots, there's just attacks. So Enigma Chimera is just an on-rate blue attack that
mhm,
can transcend and is a target for path well traveled into a lot of meta matchups right now. Um, and then we also have Ripple Away, Second Tenet of Chi Winds, Spears, Spectral Prowler. This card's hot garbage, and I'm embarrassed to play it a lot of the time, but sometimes it just does the thing you need it to do, which is attack for 2 with go again, and really,
mhm,
you just need it sometimes. And then I'm running 2 Unraveled Aggression. I think this card is really slept on. I think it's
mhm.
very powerful, specifically into Azalea and KO. You can see it in my round 13 that, like, Unravel Aggression makes that game like much more manageable because I drew a card and then I was able to Phantasm Clasm off of it,
Mm,
which is why you see me pause on cam because I was trying to count how many reds were still left potentially in my deck for what I would draw off of it because if I draw another another red or another Phantasm Clasm, it gets kind of
yeah,
dicey for me. Um,
yeah,
so great cards. Ripple Away, absolute all star. I did not see it in a lot of lists this weekend, but absolutely backbreaking in the mirror. So
mm,
Europe, and I cast it. I used it 3 times in the mirror over the weekend. I played 2 mirror games. My opponents, when your opponent goes Spectral Manifestation, you go discard Ripple Away, and they go,
mm.
oh, hmm, and then they just like really contemplate their life decisions on why they've decided to cast a spectral manifestation. And so
Yeah,
it's
that's
very good.
interesting. So
Yep.
mirror tech there.
Yes. And then it's good into Azalea as well. But also it's just a blue attack for 4, which is like sometimes you literally just need to attack your opponent. You can go like
Yep.
Spectral Shield into 4, and you're embarrassed that you're doing it, but sometimes that's all you need. It's
Yep.
okay. You can just be embarrassed, but sometimes attacking for war is just fine. Um, running 2 dissolve realities. Uh, so here we'll go back up to East Drake. Can you tell I've never done a deck tech before? Um, so East Strikes, it's the best. It's one of the best 2 card hands that you can have in the deck. It's also one of the best like cards for large hands in the deck. So one of the things that we're running into is like being able when you don't have a board or had to give up a board, like how do you functionally have either 4 and 5 card hands or just like small 2 card hands where maybe you have a board that you're trying to protect and then halfway through the turn, you're like, yeah, nope, actually, no way I'm protecting this board. E-Strike is that card that kind of fills that gap where
Mm,
I blocked 2 card. I was hoping to protect this Rage Spectre. Turns out I can't because you're coming in for way over the top. I'll let it die and I'll just send 7 at you. Um, it's just a really really good role player. It's very good in the new as well. Good into Azalea. It's just great all around of just like throwing damage because at the end of the day you are a combo deck. If you are keeping life parity with your opponent and you have not had it yet, they have already lost the game.
yeah.
Like it's just you are going to draw Miragi at some point, and you will end the game with Hat because
Yep.
you are going to throw 10 into 6, into 9, into 7, into whatever number, and then they're going to be like, well, I have to take all of this. I'm going to 2 life total points, and you're at 15 with 4 ward on board, and you say, yep. And they go, And you basically have just ended the game at this point because you have perpetual board state that can continually attack over and over again, and you just slowly whittle them down.
No.
Um,
Yeah, it's
so,
interesting that you bring up a point there. It's a different access like that that you're playing on, right? Because you're like if your opponent, well, I guess it's a lot of illusionists' game plans in the past too. It's like ask questions, and if the opponent makes the wrong or says the wrong answer by blocking, and then like mirror guy gets to live, it's whoopsie, you just lost.
yes, yeah, like if you don't have an answer on the turn that like Miragi hits the board, the game's over. It's done. You're going to take
Hmm.
way too much damage, and you're never going to be able to financially recover. So you might as well just scoop it up right there. Um, So to dissolve reality, it's pretty much main boarded in most matchups. It comes out in some, but this card is again very good. Disruptive piece. Your opponent's arsenaling their threat, waiting for your like mirror guy to hit the board, and you're just like, here's my mirror guy, and get rid of that, please. Like you were holding your go
Mhm.
again, but I would like you to not do that anymore. Thank you. Goodbye. The reason we're only running 2 is because if you ever draw 2 in the same hand, you are chronically depressed because it doesn't actually do anything by
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
So there's that. We're on 8 transcend cards. The only one that we're not playing is Grain That Tips the Scale. If I had to resubmit my deck list, I would find a spot for Grain That Tips the Scale though. Um,
Would you stay at a total of 8 or would you go to 9?
no, I would go to the 9.
Okay.
Um, the hero does a couple things that are inherently broken, and you just want to like do those more. Transcending
Yeah.
broken because it turns on your mirror guy and your hat and basically everything else. And if you can ever play a mirror guy without having to hat for the chi, it's it is
Yeah,
so
he's
easy
so
to
far
protect it
ahead. Yeah.
because you get to use the hat to find the chi to protect it, which is also like why unravels are in the deck. Where I've had me and Andrew were playing one test game, and he presented 27 damage off of a blood rush turn while I had a mirror guy on the board, and I covered. I think most of it. I think I lost the mirror guy, but I got to keep a spectral shield. So I took like 0 damage to a 27 damage blood rush and kept a spectral shield around. Um, but it was like off the back of hat into unravel into boots, and
Yeah.
it's like a build your own carrion husk. That covers a
Yeah.
ton of like awkward breakpoints as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's like that makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's just like you mentioned with the traverse, right? It's like speed run to traverse. And if you can speed run that faster, if you can transcend like super early in the game, and then
mhm,
you kind of just then you it unlocks the ability to block when you need it to instead of like when you have to, like
yes,
later.
yep.
um yeah, it makes a lot of sense to go to 9. Just run all 9, right?
Yes. Yeah. I also take out the Sacred Art of Lunar Shrine in a lot of matchups because that card is quite bad when you only have 4 cards in your hand.
Mhm.
You have to have a 5-card hand to functionally use the card, to its fullest effect. So, to be able to get, like, the actual full value out of that, you do really want 5 cards, which sometimes is just not a luxury you get into a lot of matchups. So, I tend to take it out in those matchups where you don't actually get to use all 5 of your or keep all 5
Mhm.
of your cards.
And
And then we have
that's because it costs 3 and you would have to play the blue card, right? So now you're it needs 3 cards at a minimum just to activate it, right?
yes. Yep.
So yeah, then you just have 1 card left and you're like, "Oh, what am I doing?" So
Yes,
that
exactly. Yep,
makes
you
sense.
you end up with 1 cheat and 1 card left in your hand, and you're like, "Hmm, I did a lot of fancy stuff to accomplish a whole lot of nothing."
Nothing, yeah.
So, Moon Chakra Blue, this is my pet card. Um, I love this card. 1, it's an absolutely beautiful foil. 2, it's an on-rate transcend card. So, it it doesn't look great if you're not transcending, but when you do transcend, card looks insane, absolutely insane. So, um, especially if you draw this off of like a rising sun setting moon, that's just like the chef's kiss there.
Yeah.
Um, so we can scroll down. We're on spears and the spectral prowlers. I mean, so like we play the deck very aggressively, because if you can keep rate with your opponents, typically it and then you're both if you're both sub 20 and you hat mirror guy, the game's over. So
Yeah.
just being a blue that has go again and that you can transcend off of, perfectly fine for spears and prowler. Because you just want to be able to transcend, make babies, and then casually protect them sometimes. And then you just like get this like crazy incremental value. I think one card that I don't I feel like no one respects the Rage Boy. Rage Boy is great. Rage Boy is like he's kind of nuts when you think about it. Like I was my round 4 opponent played a Rage Spectre and he kept it around for like 6 turns and was just beating me to death with this stupid card. It was so annoying because he knew that like sometimes Miragi at home is still amazing because
Yeah.
Miragi is like nutso. So like Miragi at home is just like that's really really good, and that's what Rage Spectre is. Once you put a +1 counter on it,
Yeah.
uh, so love that card. Unravel Aggression is probably like the last like techie card that I have that some people don't. If you ever pitch a chi to play this card, it's absolutely broken. And I am always okay with a card that allows me to transcend that is -1.
Mhm.
So it blocks 5, but it allows me to transcend. And usually transcend effects are +1 ish. Um, so I'm perfectly happy to play it. Um, I would probably shave one out of the list, but I would never cut all of them. It's very good in the KO and Azalea,
Mhm.
uh, and I don't think they're leaving anytime soon. So
No, I think they're here to stay.
yep, yep. And then Warmonger's good card. Um, I don't think I have to say anything about that. It's just good in the like Rune Blades and Azalea, and now that we're getting more Rune Blades, it's just going to be
Rune Blade.
kind of a staple into the
I was gonna
list.
say, wait a second. When are you playing against Rune Blades, bro?
Dude, some crazy people brought it. Um, so
Exactly
sideboard is
3.
mostly like disruption, the disruption package. So we're running 2 amnesia, 3 clasm, 3 spears at red, and weakest link. So amnesia really only comes in for prism and zen. The our overarching theory was actually it's not even my they were like, "Yeah, play the game a little slower." And I'm like, "No, I just want the Zens dead." The only time I've ever had success against Zen is if the game ends in 4 turns. I just want them dead. I no longer want them to be able to play cards or block with equipment, because as soon as they
Mhm.
block with equipment, I get scared. So I just want them dead and gone.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
so yes, so like we're bringing in all the spears. Zens are starting to run poppers now, so spears might have to come out of the list
Yeah.
because of that. And
What
like I was talking to Michael Fung, and Majin Bey was playing poppers into him in the battle hardened. So um, the spears are likely going
interesting.
to come out of the list going forward, because people will run poppers into you now that they understand how the deck works more. Um,
Yeah.
Red spears were cracked though over the weekend. They're
Mhm.
very good into Azalea. They're very good into Zen. They're very
Yep.
good in the Kano. They're good into any matchup that don't run a ton of poppers. And it's a little dicey, but they're decent in the mirror.
Mm.
Um, because the mirror basically comes down to, can you threaten my board consistently and kill things? Because if you can't, then you lose the game. It doesn't matter if
Mhm.
you Miragi first or second, if you can't clear the board. And if you can't consistently offer like go again sources, it none of it matters. So like spears and e-strikes are absolute all-stars in the mirror, because they consistently threaten above rate damage and ask your opponent right on the spot, like, I have more cards in my hand, do you think you can block the rest of my turn?
Mhm.
um, so they're all-stars there. Clapham, this is in basically every matchup besides pretty much KO and Guardian. um, Cards nuts, being able to see
Yeah.
your opponent's hands, and it it so the two things that I will say about like Clasm and Weakest Link, even in the matchups where the on hit is fake, being able to see your opponent's hand lets you know exactly what they can do on the turn into you. So
Mm.
you can plan your blocks accordingly, and you know if you can protect your ward.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
like
it makes sense.
you know right away, either I'm giving it up or you have no shot at clearing my board. Good luck, bud. Um, so those two, like the look at hand effects, are actually really good. Um, they were all stars over the weekend. Weakest Link, I think in this meta, everyone should be running 3 Weakest Link. I don't think it's really a question. It's better than CNC in a lot of spots. And I think it should just kind of be a staple in every deck right now.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
that makes a lot of sense. I think that card was being slept on a bit, Nate.
yes,
It'll
yes,
be
very.
interesting to see. The one thing that I wanted to note too is that so you were saying, you want to swing something and then end on a card, which is like it's super interesting that you put in the Phantasm Attacks, because if they even had a popper, right, you could play it in a way, if you're at risk of popping, right, like you said in the mirror or something,
Mhm.
if they still give you that popper, you're still kind of achieving your goal,
Yes.
because that's one less card they can attack your ward back with and attack your board with.
Mhm.
So it yeah, it's like I guess it's like as you were talking through it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's not even that scary that if they break one of your attacks, because you're just like, okay,
Yep.
now you have 3 cards, right? And let's see if you can get through and wipe my board.
Mhm. And it's even something like just as little as like a spectral shield that you made that with like a +1 counter on it, where it's all right, I'm just gonna swing that and Weakest Link, and it's like if I give you 2 cards, I can't even kill that like spectral shield. And that's kind of how the games can snowball and get out of hand very
Yeah.
quickly. Um, so we consider them like the enders, where like a lot of your deck already has like inherent go again. So like having these really strong enders where they've taken damage, and now you're presenting big on hit or disruptive piece, and like you kind of get to mess with what they were planning to do to begin with like
Hmm.
dissolve and phantasm clasm. really kind of like messing with what they were planning to do, and now they've got to really rethink how they're going to try to clear your spectrum or your wards.
Yeah.
And then we have the one red unmovable. It's for Azalea and KO. I think this card is very good in the KO matchup, but also it's very good into Azalea. Obviously, it comes in versus Guardian as well, and those are really probably the only spots. Maybe you bring it in against Yuzuri. I'm not gonna lie, did not get that far in my testing, so no clue. Good luck with that.
Wow, the
Um,
disrespect. You were just like, Azuri's gonna show up? Nah, we're
dude,
good.
so, and part of the reason why I say like this is definitely not the definitive 80 Enigma cards. Like,
Yeah.
um, that we had so little time to prepare, right?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
I definitely did not test every matchup. I think I changed 9 cards between like Tuesday night and deck submission on Thursday.
Yeah, it's nuts.
So part of the change was Spectral Manifestations and Restless Coalescence. I was playing Waxing Spectre before, and then Michael Fung, the uh, genius that he is, all of a sudden hopped in a Discord call while we were talking about calls, and he goes, "Guys, what if Waxing Spectre sucks?" And I said, "It does. Cut it. I hate this card. Get it out of here."
That's
And then he
hilarious.
left the call. He's like, "I got to go to the airport." Just that's all I was thinking. I was like, "You know what? I've been thinking this card sucks. I'm cutting it from my list. But now what do I do?" And then he got to the airport and he's like, "You just run Spectral Manifestation," and said, "It's a combo." Um, and he is a genius. It's a combo. You go Spectral Manifestation and then you go Tunic CNC, Tunic Weakest Link,
Mm.
Tunic Amnesia, or you just go Spectral Manifestation, Spears of Surreality, and your opponent's like, well, I have to take all of this damage, or you get to keep your 4 damage Spectral Shield. Don't love that. Or I block 2 cards and I have no shot at clearing that Spectral Manifestation. It's like,
Yeah, for sure.
yes, you have no shot. Good luck with that, buddy. Um, so, and when you bring in Spectral Manifestation, the obvious combo card is like Restless Coalescence. Um, Cat Army, what an amazing card.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a pretty nuts card.
Dude, our boy, that you're gonna have to help me. I can't even pronounce Miragi's name. How do you how do you pronounce his
Is
name? I'm sorry.
Oarty?
Yes,
Is Oarty?
amazing
Yeah.
art.
Yeah.
He's such a great human. So shout out to
Yeah.
him.
Big
He
fan.
tweeted at me while I was in my top 8 game. Um,
Nice.
I love the art on this card. I absolutely hate this card. This card is so annoying. It's yellow, so
Yeah.
it's not a blue,
It's
which
very
sucks.
weird.
It's Ward 2. It has an insane ability, and it won me a game in the Prism, but I still don't like this card. I
It's
understand why
funny.
people run it and people like it, but that's why it's a 2 of in my list, is because there's so many times where I want this card to either be blue or a 3 block or do anything else in the world other
Yeah.
than be a stupid yellow no block. Because it it needs other cards to be good. It like this card by itself just sucks. It
Yeah.
just it's a block 2 yellow. Like it's basically a cracked bobble half the time. It's like I actively get frustrated when I see this card in my hand sometimes. Like in one of my KO games, I had to put it onto the field, pitch my sink below to flip my gloves up to give it a +1 counter, remove a counter, and let it die because I was being attacked with a CNC, and it's not a 3 block, it's a 2 block. So I had to use my stupid
Oh
gloves
my god.
to make this a 3 block, and I was very upset, and I wanted to immediately rip up the card. But
That's funny.
alas, we still won that game. So,
Nice.
and then last but not least, we have our Null Rune suite. So, running gloves, crown, and chest into Kano. Um, or running the ward boots into Kano. My thought process was I want my ward boots to trade for his waning moon. on my go-go turn. So I'm going to try to throw a bunch of damage at you. I want my boots to trade for your waning moon. You got to figure out how to do additional damage outside of that that I can't cover to end my turn. Um, Alas, I played no Kanos. Did not matter. Um, what are you gonna do?
Man, what are you
So
gonna do? Just
your
have to
mileage,
just good at dodging.
yes, your mileage may vary. And then lastly, Phantasmal Footsteps. It's basically in there for mech to not have your traverse exploded too early.
Mm,
Because I think you should be able to fatigue both of them if they go boost into you. Um, but you need to make sure that you get traverse value. So
yep,
there's that.
makes sense. Watch out
Um,
for them T-bones, folks.
yes. So everyone is saying though, like this deck is like a big dog to Zen. Like, why would you play this in a Zen meta? I'm actually not convinced that it's like a absolute dog. And I think there's ways that you can change the deck to try to target Zen even more. Because I don't even have funny enough, I had pummels in my list until like Wednesday morning. They came
Nice.
out for the Spectrum Manifestation Restless package. But that is one way to target Zen is pummel. You
Yeah,
have a ton of targets that can carry pummel. And if you ever pummel a weakest link or CNC and absolutely juice a Zen, uh, GG's, scoop it up.
yeah.
Uh,
He folds to a stiff breeze of disruption. I
yeah,
played some games of him, and I'm like, oh God, don't take
yes,
anything from my hand right now. I need it all.
yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do to combat Zen specifically within this deck list. I don't think like the dense blue mist package is enough.
Hmm.
I think you're just prolonging the game and they will outvalue you because you can't efficiently cover everything they're presenting every turn. So your ward doesn't really get a whole lot of value um, half the time. I think you just want to be ending the game quickly and adding as much disruption into the deck as possible. Um, but
Yeah, I
the
think too. Oh, sorry to cut you off there, but I was just going to add to that point too. You had mentioned it right. Not a lot of time to prepare for this for US Nats. We were like at the very beginning. As Nats continue, I think more and more things will come out to target Zen, and
Mhm.
then that will kind of raise the level of this deck and kind of probably unlock a little bit for Enigma. Like you said, maybe Enigma run some pummels just as a backup plan. Um, but I'm really interested to see how this meta evolves moving forward. But
Mhm.
this was a great start um, to Enigma's run. Right, there was two of you in top eight, two very different deck lists.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I think it shows that Enigma has legs, and there's definitely not just one way to build her, and maybe the way to build her has not even been found yet.
Yes. I'm a little partial to our version. I think Aaron's deck. I looked at his deck list. I like a lot of the cards in there. Standing Order was one of the cards that I did have in the deck for a while, um, as it's just like a really good both defensive and offensive option, which is what the deck wants to do. It wants to be able to pivot into aggression, but also be defensive when it wants to be defensive.
Hmm.
So um, in blue sinks, I think are better than spectral prowlers.
Yeah.
Um, like a lot better because you can sync the chi into like an actual card that does something useful.
It's very cool. Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, like the chi in your hand, you're just like, I don't even want this right now. Just like give me something new. Um, so I think that's like a really cool like upgrade that they found to the deck. Um, I think like if I was to go back and like submit a deck to like nationals to like this weekend, I'd cut the spears. I think a lot of people will start running poppers into Enigma, seeing like the lists that have been being run, and adding pummels in, pump and probably more pummel targets too. So like changing up some of the blues, so you can run some of like the three cost blues that attack instead of
Hmm.
maybe like the you can cut the like a Prowler for like a sync. I don't think you want too many syncs. I think maybe like one, but then like you could run like Phantasmal Haze or Spectral Rider, um, and then adding like another either like a Humble or Amnesia into the deck as like another target that carries pummels, because Spears and Pummel target all of the same matchups. So it's an easy switch out. Like Spears is good in the Kano, Pummel's also good in the Kano. Same thing with Zen. So like these decks that are going to start trying to counter you with poppers, you just like kind of like zig where they zag and say, okay, I
Mhm.
will run less popperable cards, and I'm just going to pummel your face in. Thanks for playing. Um, but overall, the deck feels basically, it's like I think you're 50-50 into Azalea. I think you're slightly unfavored in the Zen, and then I think everything else is pretty favored for you. Outside of Riptide. Riptide is actually chronically depressing, and I don't know how you're supposed to beat that without adding Refractor into the list.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that does sound tough, Nate. But we will put the link. We'll obviously put the link to this deck in the description below. We obviously we didn't go through the sideboard. We talked a lot about the sideboard matchups, but it will have the full sideboard in it as well. So sleeve this up, take it to your armory, become a delusionist, just like Nate is now forever.
Dude,
Nate will
I
be on
love this
Dromai when
deck.
she comes back. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, thanks
But
everybody. Everybody that I saw, like all my old friends. Um that it's just so much fun going to these events,
mhm.
seeing all the people you haven't seen in so long, and catching back up. It's I think one of my favorite things is like catching up with people in between rounds and just like seeing how they're doing. Even though
Yeah,
sometimes it's not great, but just like that's always what I'm like the most excited for. So um,
yeah, for sure.
thanks everybody who came up, said hi to me. It felt weird to be like the one that was like people were like rooting for me in like the final rounds. Um, I'm not normally in that spot. I'm usually checking on the ones who were like on the bubble.
Full
Um,
role reversal.
yes, yeah. So it felt really weird. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you to like all my teammates, not just the ones who helped like a lot on the Enigma deck. Um, to Ted, to everybody. Yeah, just I
Yeah,
really
man.
appreciate everybody.
Yeah, congrats on your run. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just had to run it back at Worlds now, dude. That's it. That's it. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Just have to first I have to beat the final boss, which is convincing my wife to let me go.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, that is the final boss. So
Yes, yes,
but
yes, yes.
we'll wrap it up there. Thanks everybody. Again, congrats Nate on the top 8 run. And
Thank you.
please like, subscribe, do the do's. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
Peace.